For more than 180 years, one name has quietly stood above the rest. Not because it made the most watches. Not because it spent the most on advertising. And certainly not because it followed trends. Instead, it built a reputation so extraordinary that kings, presidents, billionaires, and the world's greatest collectors all sought the same name: Patek Philippe. In 2019, a single Patek Philippe sold for more than $31 million. It became the most expensive wristwatch ever sold at auction. But here's the real question. What makes a watch worth more than a mansion? The answer isn't gold. It isn't diamonds. And it isn't rarity alone. The answer lies in nearly 2 centuries of craftsmanship, innovation, and one philosophy that changed the meaning of luxury forever. Because, unlike almost every other luxury brand, Patek Philippe was never trying to impress the world. It was trying to build something that would outlive it. This is the story of how a small workshop in Geneva became the most respected name in watchmaking, and why millions dream of owning a watch they may never truly own. For every legendary company, there is a moment when success seems impossible. For Patek Philippe, that moment came before the company even existed. Long before his name became associated with the world's finest watches, Antoine Norbert de Patek was a soldier. He wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't trained as a watchmaker. He was born in Poland in 1812, during one of the most turbulent periods in European history. As a young man, Patek joined the Polish uprising against the Russian Empire. Like thousands of others, he fought for a country that no longer existed on the map. The rebellion failed. Many were killed. Those who survived fled across Europe. Patek was one of them. Forced into exile, he arrived in Switzerland with little more than determination and the hope of starting over. Geneva was already known for skilled craftsmen, but competition was fierce. He had no famous family, no fortune, no workshop, only one belief: that he could build something worthy of being remembered. At first, he partnered with another Polish watchmaker, François Czapek. Together, they created elegant pocket watches for fellow Polish expatriates. The business survived. But it wasn't changing the world. Patek understood that beautiful craftsmanship alone would never be enough. If he wanted to create something extraordinary, he needed innovation. And soon, he would meet the man who would change everything. In 1844, at an industrial exhibition in Paris, Antoine de Patek met a young French watchmaker named Adrien Philippe. It was a meeting that would redefine the future of watchmaking. At the time, every pocket watch required a small key. Lose the key, and you couldn't wind the watch. You couldn't even set the time. It was inconvenient, fragile, and outdated. Adrien Philippe believed there had to be a better way. After years of experimentation, he developed a revolutionary mechanism that allowed a watch to be wound and adjusted using nothing more than a small crown. No separate key. No extra tool. Just a simple twist of your fingers. Today, that sounds ordinary. Back then, it was revolutionary. Antoine de Patek immediately understood what he was seeing. He wasn't looking at a clever invention. He was looking at the future. A few years later, he ended his partnership with François Chapek and joined forces with Adrien Philippe. In 1851, the company adopted a new name, Patek Philippe. It wasn't simply the birth of a new brand. It was the beginning of a new standard for the entire watch industry. From that moment forward, the company pursued a simple idea: never stop improving, even when perfection already seemed within reach. The partnership between Patek and Philippe wasn't built on convenience. It was built on a shared belief that true excellence is never accidental. One brought vision. The other brought innovation. Together, they laid the foundation for a company that would spend the next 2 centuries redefining what a luxury watch could be. And before long, the world would begin to notice. Success in business often comes from making the right product at the right time. But true prestige is earned when the right people believe in what you create. For Patek Philippe, that moment arrived in 1851. London was hosting the Great Exhibition, the largest international exhibition the world had ever seen. Inside the magnificent Crystal Palace, thousands of inventors, engineers, artists, and manufacturers displayed their greatest achievements. It was a celebration of innovation, a glimpse into the future. Among those exhibitors was a young company from Geneva, Patek Philippe. Its watches were elegant, beautifully handcrafted, and unlike anything most visitors had ever seen. But one visitor would change the company's future forever: Queen Victoria. After visiting the exhibition, she purchased a Patek Philippe pendant watch. Soon afterward, Prince Albert purchased one as well. It was more than a royal purchase. It was a royal endorsement. Across Europe, aristocrats and royal families began to notice the name Patek Philippe. Kings, queens, princes, emperors. One by one, they became customers. In an era long before celebrity advertising and social media, reputation traveled through trust. If the finest people in Europe chose Patek Philippe, others naturally followed. Within just a few years, the company had become synonymous with elegance, precision, and prestige. But royal recognition was never the company's final goal. For Patek Philippe, excellence was never something to achieve. It was something to pursue every single day. Many companies define quality by what customers can see. Patek Philippe believed quality also meant perfecting what customers would never see. Inside every movement, hidden beneath the dial, every wheel, every spring, every polished bridge, and every tiny screw received the same attention as the exterior. Because craftsmanship was never about appearances. It was about respect. Respect for the craft. Respect for the watchmaker. And respect for the person who would one day wear the watch. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was considered too small. Master watchmakers spent countless hours polishing parts that would remain invisible for decades. To an accountant, it made little business sense. To Patek Philippe, it made perfect sense. Because perfection was not measured by efficiency. It was measured by pride. While many manufacturers focused on increasing production, Patek Philippe focused on improving every detail. Each new generation of craftsmen inherited techniques refined over decades. Knowledge passed from mentor to apprentice. Experience became tradition, and tradition became identity. Over time, that relentless pursuit of excellence transformed the company into something greater than a watch manufacturer. It became a symbol of mechanical artistry. But beautiful craftsmanship alone wasn't enough. The company wanted to push engineering beyond what anyone thought possible. To most people, a watch has one purpose: to tell the time. Patek Philippe saw something entirely different. It saw an opportunity to challenge the limits of mechanical engineering. How could a watch automatically recognize leap years? How could it display the phases of the moon with astonishing precision? How could tiny mechanical parts produce music with the sound of cathedral bells? The answers became known as complications, minute repeaters, perpetual calendars, split seconds chronographs, world time mechanisms, annual calendars, celestial displays. Each complication represented years of research and countless hours of hand assembly. Every component had to function in perfect harmony. Not with electricity, not with software, but with springs, gears, levers, and human ingenuity. The more complex the mechanism became, the greater the challenge. Yet, Patek Philippe continued pushing further. Every new masterpiece demonstrated that mechanical watchmaking was far from obsolete. It was evolving into an art form that reached one of its greatest achievements through a single extraordinary commission. By the early 20th century, Patek Philippe had already earned worldwide respect. Then came a request unlike any other. An American banker named Henry Graves Jr. wanted something the world had never seen. Not the most expensive watch. the most complicated watch ever created. For years, engineers and master watchmakers worked in complete secrecy. Hundreds of components, years of calculations, years of craftsmanship. Every function had to perform flawlessly. The result was the Henry Graves Supercomplication, a masterpiece containing 24 separate complications. It remained the most complicated watch ever made for decades. It wasn't simply a triumph of engineering. It was proof that mechanical watchmaking could achieve what many believed was impossible. Generations later, collectors would compete fiercely for the opportunity to own it. Not because it contained precious metals, but because it represented the absolute peak of human craftsmanship. By now, Patek Philippe had achieved something few companies ever accomplish. It had earned admiration from kings, respect from craftsmen, and devotion from collectors. It seemed unstoppable. But history had one more challenge waiting. One that nearly changed the future of the entire Swiss watch industry. By the late 1960s, Swiss watchmaking stood at the top of the world. For generations, mechanical watches had represented the highest level of precision humanity could achieve. It seemed impossible that centuries of craftsmanship could ever be replaced. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. In 1932, during the depths of the Great Depression, the company was acquired by the Stern family. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than a change in ownership. In reality, it became the foundation of everything Patek Philippe would later become. Unlike most luxury brands, Patek Philippe never became part of a massive corporate group. It remained under the stewardship of one family. Generation after generation, the Stern family protected the company's independence. That independence gave Patek Philippe something incredibly rare: the freedom to think decades ahead. Not quarters, not annual reports, but generations. The company could have expanded production dramatically. It could have opened factories around the world. It could have flooded the market with more watches. Instead, it deliberately chose restraint, because every additional watch carried a simple question: would producing more make the product better? If the answer was no, the answer from Patek Philippe was also no. That philosophy frustrated impatient investors, but it earned something far more valuable: trust. Collectors knew that every decision was made to protect quality rather than maximize profit. In a world increasingly driven by volume, Patek Philippe became famous for doing less. And somehow, that made people want it even more. Then, in 1976, the company surprised the entire industry once again. Luxury watches had always been associated with precious metals: gold, platinum. Jewelry. Steel belonged to tool watches, not high-end watchmaking. Yet Patek Philippe introduced a bold new design crafted primarily from stainless steel. It was called the Nautilus. Designed by the legendary Gerald Genta, the watch drew inspiration from the rounded portholes of ocean liners. Its design was clean, modern, confident, completely different from anything the company had produced before. The reaction was mixed. Some collectors were confused. Others dismissed it entirely. Many questioned why anyone would pay a luxury price for a steel watch. But history would prove them wrong. Over the following decades, the Nautilus transformed from a controversial experiment into one of the most desirable watches ever created. Waiting lists stretched for years. Prices soared far beyond retail. Collectors around the world competed for the chance to own one. Once again, Patek Philippe had ignored conventional wisdom. And once again, it had been right. By refusing to chase trends, the company had created one of the greatest icons in modern watchmaking. But perhaps the company's greatest achievement wasn't creating extraordinary watches. It was creating something even rarer. Desire that could never be fully satisfied. Today, demand for Patek Philippe has never been higher. Collectors across the world wait years for a single watch. Some never receive the model they requested. The company could easily produce far more watches. Modern technology would certainly make that possible. But Patek Philippe chooses not to. Every year, only a limited number of timepieces leave its workshops in Geneva. Not because the company lacks the resources. Not because demand is too low. But because every additional watch raises a difficult question. Can perfection be mass-produced? For Patek Philippe, the answer has always been the same. No. Every movement still passes through the hands of skilled craftsmen. Every polished surface reflects hours of patient work. Every tiny adjustment is made with the understanding that this watch may still be ticking a century from now. In an age where products are designed to be replaced, Patek Philippe continues building objects designed to survive generations. Scarcity, therefore, is not a marketing strategy. It is the natural result of refusing to compromise. The company isn't trying to create exclusivity. It is trying to protect excellence. And perhaps that is why owning a Patek Philippe has become about far more than owning a luxury watch. It has become a symbol of patience, of discipline, of appreciating craftsmanship in a world obsessed with speed. Then, in 1996, Patek Philippe introduced what would become one of the most iconic advertising campaigns ever created. The image was simple: a father and his son, accompanied by just one sentence: You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation. Most people saw a clever slogan. Collectors saw something much deeper. For nearly 2 centuries, Patek Philippe had never measured success by sales alone. It measured success by longevity. The company understood that time is the only thing every human being shares. No matter how wealthy we become, no matter how powerful we become, none of us can own time. We can only decide how we spend it, and perhaps how we choose to preserve it. A Patek Philippe is present during life's greatest moments. A wedding, the birth of a child, a graduation, the signing of a business that changes a family's future, a quiet celebration after decades of hard work. Long after those moments have passed, the watch remains. Its hands continue moving. Its movement continues beating, not as a reminder of wealth, but as a reminder of the people who came before. Every scratch tells a story. Every service preserves another chapter. Every generation adds a new memory. The watch never changes its purpose, only its owner. That is why collectors rarely describe a Patek Philippe as an investment. They describe it as an inheritance, something to protect, something to respect, something to pass on. Nearly 200 years have passed since Antoine Norbert de Patek arrived in Switzerland with almost nothing. No fortune, no factory, no certainty about the future, only an idea that true craftsmanship could outlive the people who created it. History proved him right. Empires have risen. Empires have fallen. Technologies have transformed the world. Entire industries have disappeared. Yet inside a quiet workshop in Geneva, master watchmakers continue assembling tiny mechanical movements by hand. Not because it is the easiest way, but because they believe it is still the best way. While many luxury brands compete for attention, Patek Philippe has spent generations earning respect. It does not produce the most watches. It does not make the loudest promises. It does not chase trends. Instead, it creates objects that quietly become part of history. Because true luxury is never defined by price. It is defined by permanence. Some watches tell time. Some celebrate success. Some become symbols of status. But only a handful become part of a family's story. That is why Patek Philippe has never simply been a watchmaker. It has become a guardian of memories, a keeper of tradition, and a reminder that the greatest things we create are often the things that will outlive us. Patek Philippe doesn't simply measure time. It preserves legacy.